welcome to Monday Morning Detective, the podcast. This is your host, Gino Scala. This is episode number 28. And we're going to be going back to Moscow, Idaho, as this case has caught the nation's attention, and not always in a good way, as you'll see shortly. Today is the day following Christmas Day, and I'm hoping that you all had a wonderful holiday celebration, holiday season with your family and friends, and you're safe and warm at home. And of course, we're thinking of these kids and their families at this time, the victims of this heinous crime, as well as our soldiers overseas. We're thinking of them as well. So, some updated news. A University of Idaho professor by the name of Rebecca Schofield has finally sued a TikTok user, which I believe she's also a University of Idaho student, by the name of Ashley Gillard. And Miss Schofield is a professor at the school, and she has been accused and named by Ashley in her TikToks multiple times that Professor Schofield is responsible for the murders. Now, she did this without any evidence, without any proof of any kind, and I guess the professor has had enough. I think she'd asked her several times to stop these accusations, and apparently, I think this Ashley girl is her elevator doesn't go all the way up to the top. And perhaps she has a personal gripe against this particular professor, who admittedly had a few of these students in her classes, but she'd been there for 10 years, I believe. Now, added to this accusation of the murder, as if that's not bad enough or defaming enough, is the accusation that Rebecca had sexual relations with these girls. That's what she's being accused of by Ashley. And that may have gone too far as Rebecca is concerned, and therefore she has filed this lawsuit. And I've been very active in warning others in other groups, on other Facebook pages, in any discussion involving this or any other true crime. You must refrain from naming who you believe is a suspect by name without any proof. And this goes for the former boyfriend of Kaylee's, any of the either of the surviving roommates, any of the dead roommates, any frat member, any student, anybody. If you go as far as to name Joe Smith from the bar is the killer, if Joe Smith hears about this, he can legally sue you for defamation. And unless you can present proof, you will be found responsible, and both criminally and civilly. And I'm sure the civil ramifications will be much worse than any criminal ramifications. So you cannot do this, and I see it time and time again. Now, It'll be interesting to find out what this professor is seeking. Obviously, a full retraction and an apology, but maybe more. Maybe she wants her banned from TikTok. Maybe she wants financial reimbursement for the defamation. We're talking about two types, both the sexual aspect of it as well as the criminal charge of murder. So it's pretty hateful stuff. Now add to that the accusations that continue to circle around the former boyfriend of Kaylee Goncalves, a boy by the name of Jack DeCour. Now, all I'll say about Jack, well, a couple of things. One, he was a very, very lucky boy for having Kaylee in his life. Talk about dating up. This kid, no insult intended, but he is as skinny as a twig and kind of has the Clay Aiken Howdy Doody look going. From all understanding, he is a wonderful, wonderful kid, and kudos to someone as beautiful as Kaylee to look beyond the shallowness of one's personal appearance and love him for 5 years based on growing up together and personality, etc. Now, unfortunately, because of her future plans, she had already graduated from the school, had moved out. She was back home that weekend, back on campus that weekend, or technically off campus, because she was visiting and to move some more items back home, and she got wrapped up in this thing. Now, they had called it off. Well, she obviously, according to all reports, she was the one that broke it off for about 3 weeks ago. And the reason is simple. She had accepted a job in another state, Texas, I believe, and neither wanted a long-distance romance, which, rarely ever works. So she was going to start a new life, or at least a new part of her life, while he finished school or did whatever he did. And they parted as amicable friends. And, there was no doubt from the families that they were going to circle around and reconnect and marry in the future. And that's what everybody had hoped. They felt they were a perfect couple. And, far be it for us outside of their circle to judge. All reports are he is a wonderful guy. But speaking about reports, the news reports indicate that he is devastated by the loss of the love of his life, and that he is having a very difficult time. His family is staying close by with him, and even though he's not even reacting to the accusations against him, the family is. And again, there is, he was cleared very early on, presumably by his location and proof of that location, evidence to where he was, evidence to where he wasn't, and he is no longer considered. They made that very clear early on. But yet, on many pages, on many case discussion pages on Facebook and elsewhere, This seems to be a running theme. Some people do not care if somebody is cleared. They argue the legal definition of being cleared, and it simply means the police have decided they are no longer a suspect based on the information that they have. Now, that information can change, but rarely does it change. They have proven to their own satisfaction that a particular person cannot have committed the crime. They cannot have been in two places at once. Yes, there are cases where someone is cleared early on, and then a couple of years later, something happens, and you discover that they are, in fact, the suspect. Well, that goes when you have, generally, when you have a alibi from a wife or a family member or a friend that says, yes, he was home in bed with me all night. I would have known he'd gotten out of bed, and therefore they feel that that person is cleared. Now, 2 years later, you might come to find out that she had been abused and she was told to say this, and she did in order to protect him and to protect herself. Well, that's not the case here with Jack. Okay? He has a, more than substantial eyewitnesses saying where he was. I'm sure there is some electronic data, i.e. a telephone that puts him at a certain location, and so forth. So the fact remains he is not involved, and he's not going to be involved from now or 10 years from now. So enough. Okay? And so those are the two interesting updates that we have from Moscow, Idaho. Police are still looking into, they have received over 10,000 tips. They are still searching for the white Hyundai Elantra. I think that's going to end up to be a dead end. Personally, that's my choice, my decision. Interesting to note that on one of the discussions on YouTube, which I follow daily, is called The Reporter Room, hosted by Jessica De La Davies. And I find it to be an excellent, she does good work. It always did bother me that she was on board with Decor being, Jack Decor being suspicious, regardless of the fact that he had been cleared. A lot of her videos contain the red flags and that supposedly revolve around Jack. And interesting to note that in this New York Post article regarding internet sleuths pointing the finger at Jack Decor, she specifically is mentioned. So I would say, and their claim is, they're the most ridiculous conspiracy theories out there. And I agree. So there's no other way to really, damage your own credibility by buying into one of these ridiculous theories, especially when the police have looked you right in the eyes through the camera and said, we no longer believe he is a suspect, period. What more do you need? That you know more than the police? You don't. You're going by what you think might happen, and if it happened to you, that it would be this guy or something. obvious he was one of the first, if not the first person they looked at. And it's obvious he was the hardest they looked at. And he survived it. He made it through those accusations and interviews, and probably didn't get to the interrogation stage, but it may have. But whatever he did, whatever proof he provided, whatever evidence, whatever alibi has been good enough for them, and it should be good enough for you. Okay, so we'll stay on it here at Monday Morning Detective and come out with any new updates as we get them. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If you are interested in being interviewed on this or any other true crime case, I'd love the opportunity. We can Zoom and record it and go from there. Now, I will tell you that future cases are going to involve the Jeffrey McDonald case and the Zodiac case, because there are some developments to those. And so that's just something to keep away in the back of your mind. But at this point, this has taken the forefront in the true crime world, and it is one that I am personally very vested in. My interest and research time and things of that nature. Just to reiterate, I believe this is going to be the work of a serial killer, whether or not, or let's just say a stranger danger. It's hard to place him as a serial killer until there are more than three or more instances. And as far as we know, this is only one. There are several other homicides that match some of the elements of this crime that have occurred in Idaho and Utah and Washington or Oregon, all within a 600-mile radius, I believe. But the police have already said they're not related. So I'm going to take them at their word. Okay? So until next time, we'll talk to you very soon. Have a great day. Bye.